In this episode of Trekking Through Compliance, we take a look at the Gamesters of Triskelion.
Compliance, the final frontier. Tom Fox is the Voyager of Trekking Through Compliance. His mission? To explore the original series and seek out and share what it can teach you about compliance. Here's your host, Tom Fox.
Trekking Through Compliance, Episode 45, The Gamesters of Triskelion. In this episode of Trekking Through Compliance, we consider the episode The Gamesters of Triskelion, which aired on January 5, 1968 and occurred on Stardate 3211.7. Story synopsis. Kirk, Uhura, and Chekov prepare to beam down to Gamma 2, an uninhabited planetoid with an automated communications and astrogation station. Before Scotty can beam them down, however, they are whisked away from the transporter platform. The landing party reappears on a different planet entirely and find themselves standing on a pad bearing a curious three-pronged triad logo. They were then accosted by four armed assailants from planets spread across the galaxy. Phasers and communicators no longer work, and for once they are defeated when they resort to hand-to-hand combat. They are then fitted with collars of obedience by Galt, the master Thrall of the planet Triskelion, and taken to their cells. When they try to escape, their collars are activated, subjecting them to great pain and rendering them helpless. Meanwhile, Spock scans the entire solar system they had been circling when the landing party disappeared, but is unable to find any trace of the lost landing party. Ensign Haynes notices an ionized trail from a hydrogen cloud, and Spock follows it across the galaxy to N24 Alpha, some 11.63 light years away. Back on Triskelion, Uhura is introduced to her drill Thrall Lars. Kirk's drill Thrall is the blue-haired Shauna, and Chekov's is Tamu. When Uhura refuses to fight, Kirk is forced to fight the whip-equipped Klug as punishment. Upon witnessing Kirk's successful battle, the providers controlling the Thralls bid for ownership of the newcomers. While on a training run, Kirk tries to distract Shahana by telling her about love. When Kirk asks her about the providers and she begins to answer, her collar of obedience is activated. When she recovers, Kirk seduces her. The providers find this amusing and do not punish Kirk, but make him stop. Back in his cell, Kirk knocks Shahana out and uses her key to free Uhura and Chekov. Spock and McCoy attempt to beam down to Triskelion, but are prevented by the providers. They are, however, put in audio communication with Kirk, who is still on the planet's surface. The providers then reveal themselves to Kirk as three glowing brains, one yellow, one green, and one orange. They threaten to destroy Kirk and the Enterprise, but Kirk makes a bet with the Gamesters about his ability to survive in combat. If he wins, the providers must free Kirk and the Thralls and the Enterprise. If he loses, he offers the entire crew of the Enterprise up as potential thralls. However, the Gamesters insist that Kirk fight three opponents simultaneously, Klug, Lars, and an Andorian. They also grant the crew of the Enterprise the opportunity to observe the conflict. Amazingly enough, Kirk wins. Amazingly enough indeed, even after one of the opponents is replaced by Shahana. Kirk, Chekov, and Uhura are returned to the Enterprise, leaving behind a saddened Shahana who ends the episode looking up in the sky and utters the classic line, "Goodbye, Jim Kirk." So what's the fun fact from this episode? Well, when asked why his character was never developed more, George Takei, Mr. Sulu, stated that one episode of Star Trek that would have helped to develop Sulu very much was The Gamesters of Triskelion. The first draft of the episode featured Sulu. However, Takei was away on location in Georgia for the filming of the movie The Green Berets, and despite his intentions to appear in the Star Trek episode, he was unable to return to Los Angeles to make an appearance due to complications on that movie set. Much to his disappointment, Takei did not appear in this episode, and yet despite this, he said, things turned out pretty well. I got to do the Green Berets, and they rewrote all of Sulu's lines for Chekov, so Walter Koenig got a good break. In spite of the rape scene that fortunately we don't see in this episode really is a very odd mixture of heavy and goofy, obviously with the brutal implications of the rape mixed in with some classic James T. Kirk speeches and the wooing of obvious alien women. It's could have been written with Kirk and Spock being made gladiators and getting tortured together, but comforting each other at the end. And there are some interesting biblical implications. One of the most interesting that I came across was that this was Daniel in the lion's den. I'm not sure I would agree with that interpretation, because Daniel really did not have to fight his way out of the lion's den as Kirk, Uhura, and Mr. Sulu do. Nevertheless, I found that interpretation somewhat interesting, and perhaps you see some other biblical interpretations in this episode as well. It's interesting to note that although Star Trek tried to stay away from explicit biblical references most of the time, in the 60s I think there was a wider recognition of biblical stories, and many of the watchers from the original series when it came out in the 60s would have had these stories quite well known to them. So there may be more references than there are to such stories today. So what are some of the leadership lessons from the Gamesters of Triskelion? Number one, ethical decision-making. In this episode, the Enterprise crew is faced with the moral dilemma of participating in the provider's deadly gladiatorial games, which goes against their principles and the values of Starfleet. Captain Kirk and his team must make difficult choices that balance the need to protect their lives and their commitment to upholding the Prime Directive and their own ethical standards. Effective leaders must be willing to make tough principled decisions, even when they come up with personal or organizational risks. Leaders must have the courage to stand up for what is right and be willing to challenge unethical practices and even demands. By establishing a strong ethical foundation and consistently reinforcing it, leaders can empower their teams to make decisions that align with an organization's values and integrity. 2. Effective communication and transparency. The providers fail to communicate their intentions and expectations clearly to the Enterprise crew, leading to confusion, mistrust, and inability to cooperate effectively. In contrast, leaders must understand the importance of clear and transparent communication. They proactively share information, set expectations, and foster an environment of an open dialogue. By maintaining transparent communications, leaders can build trust and align their teams around common goals and enable informed decision-making throughout the organization. Empowerment and autonomy. The providers exert complete control over the Enterprise crew, stripping them of their agency and autonomy. Effective leaders, on the other hand, empower their team members by providing them with necessary resources, knowledge, and decision-making ability to fulfill their responsibilities. Empowering employees fosters a sense of ownership, increases engagement, and enables employees to make informed decisions that align with an organization's overall cultural values and objectives. By granting appropriate autonomy and decision-making to their teams, leaders can cultivate a culture of accountability, innovation, and problem-solving. 4. Resilience and adaptability. The Enterprise crew must adapt and overcome the challenges posed by providers' games, demonstrating their resilience and problem-solving skill. Similarly, effective leaders must cultivate a culture of resilience and adaptability within their organizations, equipping their teams with skills and mindset to navigate unexpected challenges and rapidly changing environments. Encouraging continuous learning, fostering a growth mindset, and providing support during times of adversity can help build organizational resilience. By modeling resilience and adaptability, leaders can inspire their teams to embrace change, learn from setbacks, and continuously improve. 5. Collaborative problem solving. The Enterprise crew works together to devise a plan to escape the provider's control and regain their colleagues' freedom. Effective leaders Foster a collaborative environment where team members feel comfortable with sharing ideas, challenging assumptions, and collectively solving complex problems. By promoting teamwork, open communication, and a shared sense of purpose, compliance leaders can unlock collective intelligence and the problem-solving capabilities of their organizations. Collective problem-solving not only leads to better outcomes, but it strengthens culture, team cohesion, and, of course, morale. By applying these leadership lessons from the Gamesters of Triskelion, compliance leaders can cultivate ethical decision-making, enhance communication and transparency, empower their teams, build organizational resilience, and encourage collaborative problem-solving. Implementing these strategies can help create a more agile, ethical, and high-performing compliance culture within your organization. Join us tomorrow when we take up the episode, A Piece of the Action.
If you enjoyed this episode of Trekking Through Compliance, you can help it grow by sharing it with the biggest Trek fan you know.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.